In the opening scenes, we see four guys, laughing loudly, chasing a frightened girl through the forest. Then they catch her and do whatever they please. At some point a man in a general's uniform appears and begins shooting at the criminals, taking their lives right in front of the girl. Eddie Schneider arrives at the home of his girlfriend Judy Birk's parents. He has been working for her father, Russell Birk, for 5 years now, serving as the creative director in his advertising agency. Today everyone has gathered so that Eddie and Judy can announce their engagement. Russell is glad to welcome Eddie into his family, as are Linda, Russell's wife, and Anthony, Judy's brother. At first glance everything seems perfect. Eddie is charismatic and sociable, which is why he never loses clients, able to sell anything to anyone. It is in a way his gift. But Eddie also has another, darker side. He constantly meets different women and suffers from an addiction to this. Because of it, he is late for a major deal, which makes Russell nervous. He has to stall for time so as not to lose an important client, Edgar Rasky. Eddie is stuck in traffic and calls his secretary, Nora, asking her to serve the clients cold coffee. It's part of his improvisation. He hurries as much as he can. When the secretary serves the coffee, Edgar spits it out, displeased that the drink is icy cold. At that very moment Eddie appears in the office and after first asking Nora to call him, enters the conference room. This entire circus is meant to provoke Edgar and vividly show how people feel when they use his airline. Yes, Eddie is a master of his craft and has a unique creative approach to every task. The deal ends in resounding success. Russell says Eddie is crazy, but that is where his secret lies. In the evening Eddie and his colleague and friend Angelina Sable celebrate. They are not lovers, but the girl knows that Eddie cheats on his fiancée. He admits that it is hard for him to give it up. Angelina asks him to promise that from now on he will stop doing it. Russell throws a corporate party in honor of the successful deal, and also personally in honor of their creative director, so insane and unpredictable. Could one dream of anything greater? Eddie's life seems perfect, yet doubts creep into Judy's mind when she smells another woman's perfume on her fiancé's jacket. Eddie says he is going out for a run, but instead as usual he drops by his married mistress's place, only to tell her that it is over between them. In the evening at the office, Eddie talks with Anthony, who hints that he knows about his numerous affairs. But Anthony does not say it directly, merely letting Eddie understand that he is on the hook, should the need arise. Later he and Angelina say goodbye in the parking lot. He drives away, while she remembers she forgot her keys and goes back into the office. Suddenly Anthony blocks her path, asking whether she ever had something with his sister's fiancé. The girl does not want to listen to this nonsense and tries to leave quickly, but Anthony grabs her and commits acts of an unacceptable nature, disregarding her resistance. When it is over, Angelina, barely holding herself together, takes a shower and quickly leaves the office. But in the parking lot she cannot endure it any longer and bursts into tears again. In the morning Eddie arrives and finds Angelina still crying there, in the parking lot. When she tells him everything, he flies into a rage. The girl, for some reason feeling ashamed, asks him to take her to the hospital. Evelyn Sage, a doctor who by the way happens to be one of Eddie's many exes, diagnoses Angelina with post-traumatic stress disorder. Eddie enters the ward. Angelina is asleep under the influence of sedatives. Then Eddie storms into the office furious, and attacks Anthony. But Anthony only laughs in response. He has blackmail material on Eddie, photographs of him with his numerous mistresses. Eddie realizes this is blackmail. As the future head of the company, Anthony wants to be sure he is surrounded by trustworthy people. If Eddie keeps his mouth shut, then Anthony will as well. This in his understanding is what family means. Now Eddie faces a choice. If he exposes Anthony, he will lose everything: his fiancée, his career, his prospects. Eddie receives a call from Evelyn, who has already notified the police. At the moment Angelina is still in the hospital, speaking with detectives. According to Evelyn, Angelina's emotional state is terrible, but from a medical standpoint there is no solid evidence of assault. Detective Helen Drake states bluntly that without DNA traces there is little that can be done. Angelina should not have taken a shower before the medical examination. She says that her friend Eddie can testify. The girl is too frightened to stay alone, so Drake takes her to spend the night in a shelter for women who have suffered violence. The nuns will take care of her. The next day Eddie ignores Angelina's calls. She leaves him a voicemail asking him to call back and walks into the police station. At the advertising agency office, Detective Drake arrives to speak with Eddie, emphasizing how important his testimony will be in court. When Russell hears about the charges against his son, he demands that the detective leave the office immediately and not return without a warrant. That same day Russell invites Bert Zikinski, a lawyer. Linda tells him that the jury must be made to see that the victim is Anthony, not Angelina. It is not so simple, because similar accusations had already been made against Anthony before. However, Bert assures them that he will do his job, but he needs Eddie's cooperation. Judy, unlike her parents, is not sure of her brother's innocence. Eddie avoids conversations on this subject. He also avoids Detective Drake, who already knows that Russell has hired Burt Zikinski. Everyone is aware of his reputation, so the detective has no doubt that Burt will do everything to shield his client. But Eddie flatly refuses to cooperate, saying that he was not even in the office when it all happened. Angelina could have made it all up. At night Eddie cannot sleep. Deep down he is tormented by guilt. The day of the trial arrives. Soon it is Eddie's turn to testify. He claims that on that day he left the office together with Angelina. Supposedly he saw her car right behind his own. Hearing this, she cannot believe her ears. Why is her friend lying? When Burt Zikinski asks whether Angelina might have had any reason to slander Anthony, Eddie continues to lie, saying that during lunch that day he told Angelina about her dismissal. According to him, the decision had been made by Russell and Anthony. After Eddie's testimony, the Birk spouses feel relieved. He handled his role well. Now Angelina takes the stand, denying her dismissal. But she admits that the conversation with Eddie did take place, about his wedding and how it would affect their relationship. In retaliation Angelina lies as well, claiming that she and Eddie had been lovers. Zikinski casts doubt on the girl's story by bringing up a police report from 1998. Angelina had claimed that 4 young men attacked her in the forest, when suddenly a mysterious general appeared and took their lives. Of course it sounds insane, so it is no surprise that Angelina cannot provide explanations. The case was never opened, because there were no suspects and no evidence at all. Later the girl spent 2 years in a psychiatric clinic. In the end Anthony is found not guilty, but Judy believes Angelina's words about having an affair with Eddie. Judy can no longer trust him. Eddie cannot take it and calls his mistress, suggesting they meet. But Judy decides to go for a run with him. Of course he understands that this is only to keep him under control. He runs much slower, unable to keep up with his fiancée. At some point Eddie pretends to have twisted his ankle, but Judy does not care. She keeps running ahead. Now Judy is certain that Eddie is lying. He runs 4 or 5 times a week, yet he is completely out of shape. Which means he has been spending that time elsewhere. Judy breaks off their engagement. Angelina feels utterly devastated. Anthony has gone unpunished for what he did. The nun assures the girl that he will pay in full and end up in hell. But Angelina finds no comfort in the thought that Anthony will pay in the next life. She wishes for justice to prevail in this one. That same night Angelina attempts to end her life voluntarily, when suddenly the mysterious general appears again, urging her to stop tormenting herself. This makes the girl change her mind. She so desperately wants to believe the general is real. He offers Angelina the chance to take revenge on her offenders, together. The nun enters, thinking she heard voices. Angelina says she was talking in her sleep. Russell fires Eddie. Since his engagement with Judy has been broken off, and she is entitled to half the business, Russell cannot take such a risk. Eddie reminds him that it was thanks to his contribution that the agency became one of the best in New York. But this argument has no effect. Under the cover of night, Angelina goes to a troubled neighborhood, where she buys substances and a gun. Eddie makes an attempt to apologize to Judy, but she does not want his apologies. He made his choice, and it is his responsibility alone. Eddie admits that he had affairs, but not with Angelina. According to him, she lied in court to get back at him, because he covered for Anthony. Judy wonders why. The man says Anthony blackmailed him. Hearing this, Judy cannot hold back tears at the realization that her brother is guilty and that her former lover covered for him. She drives Eddie away. He goes to a nightclub to distract himself from his problems, when suddenly he locks eyes with Anthony, who clearly feels not even a hint of remorse. He teases Eddie, mockingly asking if he has found a job. This leads to a conflict that escalates into a fight. Eddie beats Anthony until the guards pull him off and throw him out of the nightclub. At the same time Angelina enters the club with a disguised appearance and slips substances into Anthony's drink. Eddie comes to Judy once more to ask her again to give him a chance. However, she only allows him to stay the night so that he will not drive drunk. Anthony's consciousness begins to blur. In such a state he does not recognize Angelina in her wig and agrees to go out and have fun with her. Turning around, she sees the general. Angelina takes Anthony far away and offers him to play. He stops enjoying it when she fastens handcuffs on him. Too late he realizes that sitting in front of him is Angelina. She takes off the wig. Anthony demands that she release him immediately. He apologizes, though the words mean nothing, and even offers her money, but Angelina does not need it. She has entirely different plans. The girl does to Anthony the same thing he once did to her, and takes his life with a gunshot. After that she throws the pistol into the water. The general is proud of her, yet the matter is still not finished. Despite everything, Eddie comes to Anthony's funeral, as does Angelina. And she does not care that her presence is inappropriate. The expression on her face speaks louder than any words. She is gloating. That very evening detectives visit Angelina to ask why she came to Anthony Birk's funeral. The girl says she only wanted to pay her respects, since the court had decided she had slandered Anthony. The detectives demand to know where she was on the night of the crime. She replies that she was here. The nun confirms her alibi. Eddie gets a job at Edgar Rasky's company, and it seems that life is getting back on track. But everything collapses when Eddie is arrested right in the middle of a presentation, charged with taking Anthony's life. Edgar believes until the very end that this is just another one of Eddie's shows. During interrogation he stubbornly denies his guilt, but Eddie's fingerprints are all over Anthony's body. The detectives strongly recommend that he confess, otherwise he may receive more than 25 years in prison. A confession could reduce the sentence. Eddie awaits trial in jail. Soon Angelina visits him. He himself asked her to come. Eddie sincerely asks her forgiveness for everything. He knows that she is the one behind Anthony's death, and he believes it was the right thing to do, but if she does not confess, he will spend the rest of his life in prison. But Angelina has no intention of doing so. Anthony got what he deserved, and she deserves a future. Perhaps she will even start a family. The trial of Eddie begins. Witnesses take the stand. Judy testifies that on that night Eddie was in her house, but she did not hear him leave in the morning. The lawyer notes that the defendant had no motive to get rid of Anthony, because after being dismissed from the Birk advertising agency he rather quickly found a position at another successful firm. Even understanding that his freedom depends on it, Eddie does not betray Angelina, still insisting that he had nothing to do with what happened to Anthony. But the prosecutor has irrefutable evidence that Anthony blackmailed Eddie, which gives him a motive. Judy feels her nerves giving way, leading to conflicts with her mother. And though after the first hearing she learned about all of her ex-fiancé's numerous affairs, she does not wish him harm, knowing for certain that he is not guilty. Now that the details about blackmail have surfaced in court, it means everything is over for Eddie. He confesses to his lawyer that he knows who actually committed the crime, but he will remain silent. The lawyer advises him to think carefully. In the best case he will leave prison at 50, but there is no guarantee he will survive at all. The second hearing takes place. Angelina is present as well. Despite everything, Eddie refuses to say that when Angelina visited him in jail she confessed to the crime. Yet Judy has proof of Eddie's innocence, and brushing aside her personal grievances, she testifies in court again, declaring that at the time of the crime Eddie spent the whole night in her house. Judy openly states that she had not said this earlier because of pressure from her family. Beyond that, she tells the whole truth about her brother, that he was a cruel man who hurt many women, but their parents always turned a blind eye. And Judy was one of those women. Anthony had always gone unpunished, and it was no surprise that he had many enemies. This testimony becomes a sensation. On the way from the courthouse to the car, the press surrounds the Birk spouses. Meanwhile Judy approaches Angelina and asks if she can pose a question. Angelina without words makes it clear that it was her. For Judy hearing this is an enormous relief. Later Eddie embraces her, thanking her for saving his life, even though she had no obligation to do so. But Judy rose above her pride and did not ruin his life out of vengeance. Together they leave the courthouse. Angelina hails a taxi and heads to the airport. For the first time in the past 9 years she feels free. At parting Eddie and Judy wish each other good luck. Their paths diverge.